As you step onto your mat, come to about mid-mat and into wide child where we left off last time. So taking your knees about mat edge or wider, depending on what works best for your knee joints and for that stretch on your inner thighs. And then use your hands pressing the ground away to take your hips back over your heels to lengthen your low back, and either keep your hands in front or rest them under your head. Settle onto the mat and deepen your breathing, coming into Ujjayi Pranayama. Use your exhale and your forearms or your hands pressing the floor away to press your hips back and to lengthen your low back. Use your inhale to feel into your hips, your low back, and into where you are in this moment. Taking a breath or two, letting the exhale carry out what you don't need. You can put it off to the side for your practice, and using the inhale to bring yourself present. As you continue to focus on your breath and you rest for a moment here in wide child, I'll read you a quote by Martha Graham as inspiration for allowing the qualities of sweetness and creativity to flow. And these are qualities of Svadisthana, our second chakra where we're focused. There is a vitality, a life force, an energy, a quickening that is translated through you into action. And because there is only one of you in all of time, this expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium, and it will be lost. The world will not have it. It is not your business to determine how good it is, nor how valuable, nor how it compares with other expressions. It is your business to keep it yours, clearly and directly, to keep the channel open. You do not even have to believe in yourself or your work. You have to keep yourself open and aware to the urges that motivate you. Keep the channel open. This next time that you inhale, push the ground away to come up. Walk your knees in towards center. Once you're kneeling, lift your arms overhead with your next inhale, gathering up, and then exhale and draw down along your midline, bringing your hands into Atmanjali Mudra, connecting into the flow of the breath, and then breathing in to tune in. As you inhale, lift your arms up, and as you exhale, stretch out behind you. And coming onto your feet and into Kundalini frogs, leaping frogs. Bring your feet into a V shape, the inner legs together. If you can't reach the ground when your legs are long, kneecaps are lifted, use a block to bridge the gap. So the priority is lengthening the legs. If you're using a block, your heels are on the ground on your inhale, and then when you exhale and come down, opening your knees outside your arms, your heels will peel off the ground. Inhale to lift your hips up, release your head down. Exhale, release your hips down, lift your head up. You're zipping your legs together as you draw up without locking your knees. Taking these first few ones slow and steady. And then once you get a sense of the logistics and your legs are beginning to warm up, go a bit more dynamically, but without sacrificing quality or precision. And begin to count. See how many frogs you can do well in 1 minute. If you've done them more than once since the last round, you'll find they're getting easier as you get stronger, and you can get closer to doing your age +1 if you're not already there. Hearing the breath more in your nose than in your throat as you pick up the pace. Minimizing the weight in your hands, using your hands for balance. Last one. Exhale and release down. Put the block off to the side if you're using it. You're going to keep the knees angled out wide and the toes curled under as you bring your hands behind you and move into your quadricep stretch. If being on the balls of your feet is too much for your toes, then be on your shins instead. Once you have your weight in your hands, lift your butt up away from your heels and tuck your tail forward towards your knees. Look at your pelvis, draw your pubic bones up towards your belly button, drawing them up more level with your front hip bones, checking that your front hip bones are level left to right. If you want to take this deeper, stretch your knees farther forward or lean back if you're on your shins. Breathe as though you're breathing into your thighs. And then release, soften a little bit so you can realign your knees in front of your front hips, thighs parallel. This might be a little bit more intense than the last one. Same awareness in your pelvis, same focus of breathing into your thighs. And push off with your hands, and as you bring yourself onto your feet, check that your feet are mountain stance underneath you. Keep your knees bent once you have your feet set, and uncurl to standing. Double checking that your knees are aligned over mid-toes before you uncurl your head. And then broaden your shoulders onto your back. Look outwards or downwards without dropping your chin down, and focus your eyes on a point to help your balance. Get a sense of lifting through that inner channel, inner arch, inner thighs, right up through the spine. As you find that sense of an inner channel, I'll give you a quote for tree today, which is, "If we surrendered to Earth's intelligence, we could rise up rooted like trees." In this variation of Vrikshasana, as you bring your weight to your left foot, check that your knees are okay with this. Stick with the first variation of foot inside your leg if you have any issues with your knees. If you want to play with this, draw your right foot up towards the front of your left thigh and hold it with your left hand. Engage the ball of your right foot to help protect your knee, and be sure your left kneecap, your standing leg knee, is lifted, not locked. If your foot will stay at the front of your thigh and you want to play with taking one or both of your arms up, you can bring your hands together at your heart or extend your arms overhead like branches. Finding the lift and the length from your left foot through your left leg, the opening of your hips as you release your right knee down, the lift up through your belly, and then extending out through your branches. Use your next exhale to release your arms down and then your foot down as gracefully as you can. Come back into Tadasana, mountain stance. Double check the alignment of your feet, and then lift your head, close your eyes, and take in the energy of that left leg. Perhaps distributing it, directing it where you'd like it to go. Lift up through that central channel. Taking in that sense of that quote by Rainer Maria Rilke of surrendering to Earth's intelligence so that we can rise up rooted like trees. Find your root system in both feet, and then begin to shift your way into your right foot. Continue to lift up out of that inner channel, and either bring your left foot to your inner leg if that's smarter for your knee, or bring the outer edge of your left foot up to the front of your right thigh. You can hold it with your hand, or if you have your right thigh engaged and the ball of your left foot engaged, they might stay together, and you can take your hands either to your heart or up overhead. See if you can get a sense of pressing down through the root system in your right heel, the sole of your foot, your toes, and drawing up from there, rebounding up from there through your leg, lifting your kneecap, your low belly, and if your arms are extended up overhead, lengthening out through your elbows and your fingers without shrugging your shoulders up. Giving yourself another breath to rise up, to lengthen, to lift. Use your next exhale to release your arms out and down, and then your foot, your leg. As you reset your mountain stance, Tadasana, close your eyes again once you've seen your feet, and take in the energy that you've created in that right foot. Swirl it towards your intention, your seed. Reconnecting with the flow of your breath. If it got lost while you were balancing, find your breathing. If your eyes have been closed, open your eyes and step your feet wide as though you're on train tracks. So you're in that same parallel mountain stance but wide, however wide works for your sense of balance. And then lift your toe tips, all 10 toe tips up, lifting your inner arches up and your kneecaps up. And then bring your hands up to the back of your head and lift your skull up towards the sky. And let your shoulders settle down away from your neck onto your back. Keep your hands there as you begin to circle your hips, getting a sense of the relationship between the movement, the flow of the hips, and how the head wants to follow that movement. So use your hands to help keep your head still and steady. And once you have a sense of your head staying in place as you find the circle of your hips, then bring your hands down onto your front hips, getting a sense of the movement of your front hip bones. So feeling how those front hip bones, left to right, may or may not be moving forward to the same degree. And if you have a sense of tightness on one side of your body, you might feel it here. Continue to breathe smoothly, evenly. And once you find a sense of what the hips are doing, the muscles in and around the hips to create this flow, then bring your hands into rabbit paws. So you're letting your hands hang from your forearms, elbows bent by your sides, which helps your shoulders broaden and your hands relax. If you feel balanced, try closing your eyes and bringing your attention inwards to the sound of your breath. Flow is one of our key words in today's practice. So finding the flow of the breath, the fluidity of the breath, and also the fluid flowing movement of the hips as they circle. You might find that if there's an area that feels less than circular, you want to connect your inhale into that area. Somewhere in the next breath or so, change the direction and see how that feels. You may want to bring your hands to your hips and notice any sensations in the muscles there, in your front hips, your outer hips. Seems like it would be the same thing going the other way, and yet notice, is there any difference in what you feel in this whole hip plexus? We think of the hips as just the outer hips, but see if you can feel how much is coming to meet in this area. You have the inner, outer, front and back of the thighs, the buttocks, the low back, the pelvic floor, and the low belly, all coming to meet here. And then also noticing this movement and how much it radiates down and up. In these last few breaths, as you continue to circle, if your eyes are not already closed, close your eyes if you can, if you feel balanced. And I invite you to play here as though you are some strange creature and this is your mating dance. You are luring your mate in through this movement. So make it sexy and seductive. Think of a sense of magnetism, of drawing towards you what you desire. Notice if you have any tightening in your jaw or your teeth or your shoulders or your mind around those ideas of sexiness and seductiveness. See if you can play in here, keeping the breath fluid. And this next time that you circle around, release to center. Let your arms lengthen down, your knees bend, and check the distance between your feet. You may want to walk in a little narrower or wider or turn your toes out, depending on what feels best for your knees. You're coming into a martial arts horse stance and feeling the bones, the skeleton of your legs holding you up, so that for a moment you can soften the muscles in the thighs, the buttocks, the belly, the low back, and allow yourself to stand without tightening through that whole hip area. This next time that you inhale, open your eyes if they're closed, turn your right foot forward, your left heel back, and release down into high lunge. Finding your high lunge where your left leg is long, your hips are about level with your right knee is over your ankle, so that then once you ease your way down into low lunge, your right knee stays over your ankle. Check your distance left to right and front to back with your feet so that you find you're not on a tightrope, left to right, and you have that distance front to back where your right knee stays over your ankle, doesn't go past it for the safety of your knee. Use your hands here to help ease your way into the opening of the front of the left thigh, quadricep, psoas muscles. If it works for your knee, uncurl your toes. You may need to support that back knee with pillow or blanket. Taking your awareness into your left thigh. You may also feel it in the top of your right. If you're not feeling the front of the left, see if you can feel your little left toenail on the ground and roll your outer hip forward slightly. Again, if it's too much, you're not breathing, push with your hands. If you have any issues with your knees, especially that front knee, lift your right toes and think of pressing the floor away with the ball of your foot instead of sinking into your knee joint. If you haven't already lifted your toes, lift them now. Feel how that lifts your inner arch. Align your hand where your right arm and your knee press together. Press your knee into your arm, push back with your arm, and then find your breathing on your left side. So feel with your left hand, your left ribs expanding. As you inhale, lift your elbow and your shoulder up, opening your rib cage, and as you exhale, release down through your hips. Notice the relationship here, one of our key words in Svadisthana. Notice the relationship between the left shoulder and rib cage opening and the right knee and the left hip. The right knee wants to roll inwards and the left hip wants to lift upwards. So as you open your left shoulder on the inhale, exhale and press your right knee into your arm and release your left hip down. Once you get a sense of all of that, if you want, take your left arm up. Find the distance between your hands, your wingspan, your shoulder blades broad on your back. Keeping your left wrist and your elbow long, so you're drawing back with your ribs instead of with your wrist. And then if you can, if you feel balanced, let your head release down, focusing your breath into that whole open left side. Left hip, waist, shoulder, and neck. Give that one more inhale, and as you exhale, release your left arm down, and then we're going to take a funny little inchworm movement forward so you don't end up yanking your left thigh back into action. Curl your left toes under and push the ground away with your left toes to bring your knee forward, and then curl your toes under, bring your knee forward, inch by inch, 3 or 4 steps, until you draw your left thigh in by your right and come into standing tuck. Bring your hands behind your heels, elbows behind your calves if you can. Bend your knees deeply enough that you can rest, compress your chest onto your thighs. And with your head dropped down, look down to see that your feet are parallel, mid-toes align. Keep your chest connected to your thighs. Use the strength of your arms to do that. And if you want to go deeper, lift your sits bones up away from your heels. Let your head release down, but your shoulders connect to your back. If you're holding tight with your head, nod or shake and release your head out. One more inhale to lift your hips up, and then use your exhale to step back into high lunge on the left. So your right foot steps back. Align your left knee over your ankle, your hips about level with your left knee, and lengthen your right leg. Bring your hands back by your left heel to clear your shoulders back. Give that a breath or so to find the length, and then ease your way down into low lunge. Use your hands to scaffold, to push the ground away so you're not sinking too quickly into the intensity of that right thigh. If it's too much, push with your hands. If you want to go deeper, use your exhale to sink your hips down. Taking the outer right hip slightly forward so you feel the little right toenail on the ground, unless you need to keep your toes curled under for the safety of your knee. And then breathing as though you're breathing down into that right thigh. Inhale, contact the sensation, and then exhale, see if you can sink into the pull of gravity a little bit more. If you don't already have your left toes lifted for the safety of your left knee, lift them now. So you feel that foot on the ground. You're pressing the ground away with the ball of your foot. And then bring your left hand, fingertips or palm down or onto a block, wherever your arm and your leg align and your shoulders are clear from your neck. Press your left knee into your arm, push back with your arm, feeling your arch stays lifted, and then feel your breath on your right ribs. Opening up through the right ribs, the right shoulder. Notice how the right hip wants to follow, and as you exhale, let your hip drop down and forward so you feel your little right toenail on the ground. And if you want, take your arm up, extending up through your right hand. Push the ground away with your left hand or fingertips so you're not sinking. That left shoulder stays open. Find the distance between your hands. Take your eyes to a point on the ground or opposite you where you can focus, and then release your head if you can. Let your left ear drop towards your left knee. Bringing your breath into that whole open right side, breathing all the way up bravely into the right side of your neck and your shoulder, jaw relaxed. Keeping your left knee pressing into your arm, left arch lifted, toes lifted on that left foot, so you're aware of your foundation. And that way you can release your head. You can take your head out of it when you have your foundation set. Give that one more inhale. As you exhale, release your right hand down. Come onto your fingertips, curl your right toes under, and inch your right knee forward. And then do that again 2 or 3 more times until you bring yourself into standing tuck. Drawing your feet into mountain stance, keeping your chest connected to your thighs, hands behind heels, elbows behind calves. Let your head release down and either hang here, or if you want to take it a little deeper, lift your sits bones up. Letting your head release. Breathing into the upper backs of the thighs now that we've opened the upper front, so those low lunges. Find the upper backs where your hamstrings connect to your sits bones, and breathing as though you can connect the breath there. One more inhale, slow breath. Use your exhale to transition to facing off the side edge of the mat. So you're stepping your right foot back and turning to face the side, coming into your train track feet again. Keeping your fingertips on the ground. And then lift your toe tips up and your kneecaps up and ease your way very slowly over towards the right by bending your right knee. Taking your time to come into your inner left thigh. Don't drop down quickly into it. Find where you feel that inner left thigh. Look over your left foot and see your left arch lifted and your left kneecap lifted. And notice if you took any of those actions, the difference that makes in the stretch on your inner thigh. Bringing your shoulders up level with your hips, so you're more a tabletop than a slide. Stretching the top of your head away from your tail. Breathing as though you can breathe into that inner left thigh. Using your hands like scaffold, so push the ground away until you can feel the strength of the bent right leg and of the core. Finding a little less weight in your hands if you can. Next time you exhale, push off with your right foot and ease your way over towards the left, coming into the side lunge on the left. Finding the stretch on your inner right thigh. Double check your right arch is lifted, right kneecap lifted, and that your shoulders are in line with your hips. So you're not down level with your thighs or your knees. You're making a tabletop with your back. And see if you can feel what's happening in your pelvis here. If you tilt your tailbone up towards the sky, how that changes the stretch on your inner thighs. Slow, steady breath, feeding into the stretch on your inner thigh. Lighten some of the weight out of your hands so that you're supporting more through your legs and your core. And then taking very slow movement side to side. So you exhale to transit, inhale to inhabit the posture. Use the whole exhale to find the fullness of the posture. So then you're there and ready to breathe into what you feel. Taking one more side to side, very slow. It's a stealthy movement, minimizing weight in your hands, but of course using your hands to support if that helps you be in the intensity of the stretch. And this next time that you're over at the left thigh, you're going to turn and transition through left lunge into modified down dog. As you step your left foot back, check that your toes line up left to right. You have about a fist width distance between your feet. Double check your hands line up, your fingers are spread out. Plant the base of your fingers down, and then modified down dog. So lift your heels, bend your knees, and just like we did with standing tuck at the front edge of the mat, see if you can bring your belly and your chest towards your thighs and tilt your sits bones up away from your heels. As you find that tilt of your tail upwards, keep your pelvis stable and steady, and then stretch your heels down, going very slowly so you can feel the place where your tailbone, your sits bones want to follow. Playing at that edge, feeling the lordosis, the curve in your low back, perhaps also feeling how your shoulders want to do it, so keeping your shoulders broad. Your ears between your arms, taking your turtle action of pulling your head out of your shell, out of your shoulders, and taking the top of your head towards your hands as you stretch your heels away from your sits bones. Anchor a little bit more deeply through the left heel, finding now just 3 paws on the ground as you take your right leg up and back into 3-legged down dog. Keep your pelvis stable, so belly lifted up underneath, right thigh drawing up. Keeping your pelvis lifted up from underneath, and you can see the alignment here by looking under and seeing the right toes, aiming upwards with the ball of the right big toe. So you're squaring your hips instead of opening your right hip. Lengthen back, pull weight out of your right hand, and this next time that you exhale, tuck your right knee underneath your ribs, come forward for one-legged plank. We're going to modify this by bringing the left knee down. But keep drawing the right knee up underneath. pushing the ground away. With your hands, just like you would in plank pose, broaden your back, engaging your core here. So you're drawing your knee up underneath. See if you can bring your hips a little bit lower, broaden your back a bit more without your right knee touching the ground. And this next time that you exhale, push off with your left toes a little bit and shift your right knee forward so it's right in line with your right thumb. It might not reach as far forward as your right thumb, so if it doesn't, walk your hands back, but take it as wide as your thumb, or even wider, but not inside. So it's right in line with your front hip. Scaffold up onto your hands, drawing yourself up. Keep your back toes curled under and engage your right foot. Press through the ball of the foot to safeguard your right knee. And then see if you can keep your belly lifted and open the hips from there. This next time that you exhale, draw yourself out over your right leg, your folded right leg. And as you come down, you might be on your forearms or rest your head on your fists or fully down on your palms. Keep the ball of your right foot engaged, even though you're releasing your head, and begin to move your hips side to side, easing into especially the outer right hip, feeling that as you take your hips towards the left, feeling how you roll across the ball of your left foot. And come to where you feel centered, across the ball of your foot, across your knee, your hips are centered. Draw your low belly in and up. Reach your left heel back and find a long line from that heel through your leg, through your spine, and then traction with your hands to draw your sternum forward. So you're lengthening out as opposed to pushing into a back bend. As you come up, scaffold up again. Use your hands to lift yourself up, lift your low belly in and up, and then ease your way down. See how much opening through the outer right hip and the front of the left thigh. You can keep the belly lifted. You can keep the jaw relaxed and the breath flowing. Use whatever strength in your hands and your arms you need to be able to be there. If it's too much on that outer right hip, you can tuck your foot underneath your thigh a bit more. This next time that you exhale, draw yourself out. Lift your belly up, push the ground away with your hands, lengthen up and back, establishing your 3 paws on the ground as you shake out your right leg. And reset your left foot if you need to, so it's in line with your left hip. Once you have a good shake, check your hands are in line with each other, your fingers are spread out, the base of your palms are planted, and then begin to lift your right leg up into the air, taking it as high as it will go, that you can breathe into, and noticing the relationship between this right hip and your right shoulder, how the shoulder wants to follow, so taking your underarms evenly back towards the back edge of the mat. Once you find that highest point, let your right foot drop towards your left butt cheek and continue to lead up with your right knee. And noticing how the right knee is related to the left knee, how the left knee wants to roll into the midline of the mat. So keeping it aligned over your toes. One more inhale here as you lift your knee up. And then lengthen through the leg at the end of that inhale. Exhale, release down into modified down dog again. Checking your toes line up, your hands line up. Lift your heels, bend your knees, tilt your tail up towards the sky. Find where your shoulders, your underarms move back without them creeping up around your neck. As you keep your pelvis stable, so core strong, your tail lifted up, stretch your heels down from that height, finding the opening through the backs of the legs. Find a little bit more reach through your right heel to stabilize on that right leg as you come into 3-legged down dog on the left side. So as you take your left leg up and back, imagine somebody's pulling that left leg, pressing through the ball of your foot, taking some weight out of your left hand. And notice how that tends to want to shrink your right waist, so drawing your right thigh back so that you pull some weight out of your right hand and align your right knee over your ankle. Next exhale, bend your left knee, come forward into modified 1-legged plank. So you're bringing your left knee up under your chest and your right knee down to the ground for a little bit more support. Push the ground away with your hands, broaden your chest. See if you can tuck your knee up a little bit more. Give it another breath. And then next time you exhale, push off with your right toes and shift into Kapotasana, pigeon. So you're bringing your left knee in line with your left thumb. Scaffold up with your hands. Double check the safety of your left knee. If it feels too much, tuck your foot underneath. Wherever your foot is, engage through the ball of your foot. So you're using the yang energy of your feet engaging, both feet, and your core engaging, and also your arms to allow the hips to open. Once you find where you can release, and you have both feet engaged, core strong, then draw yourself out. Lengthen your torso out long over your folded left leg, and either rest your head on your hands, your fists, or on your palms. When you find where you can rest your upper body and you can breathe into the opening in your hips, very gently move side to side, particularly focusing on taking your right hip towards your left foot. Feeling how that rolls you across the ball of your foot, in the back foot, in the right foot, and keeping the ball of your left foot engaged, like you have a high heel on, to help protect your knee. Deep breath, breathing into the opening of the hips. Bringing yourself back to center. Reach back through your right heel, draw your low belly in and up, re-engage those yang areas of support so that you can come upwards with integrity, drawing your torso out and then scaffold up so that you can lift your low belly and support your low back. And then see if you can ease down, opening outer left thigh and hip and front of right thigh without straining, swaying into your low back. So belly tucked up. See if you can draw your sternum up, your shoulders back, again without your low back swaying. Giving that another inhale. And then as you exhale, fold forward, bring weight into your hands, lift your belly up, transition up and back, drawing up with your left leg. It might feel good to shake it out. Once you have a good shake, release through your left leg, check that your hands line up, your right foot's in line with the front hip, and then moving into flipper. Take your left leg up as high as it'll go without pulling your right knee into the midline or your left shoulder up, keeping your underarms stable. And when you get to that highest point, bend your left knee and drop your foot towards your right butt cheek and continue to lead up with the knees. You're opening the hip and the thigh towards the side. Give that one more inhale to lift up. At the end of that inhale, lengthen your left leg, reach back, three-legged down dog, and then exhale into down dog. And from there, come down. Coming down onto your back into Shavasana. As you release down, look to see where your feet are. Align your ankles with your hips and your shoulders. And as you reach long through the heels of your feet, then let your feet drop out to the sides. Lengthen through your arms, bringing your shoulder blades broad underneath you. Feeling that your low back is comfortable. You may need to shift your bum out or down to find more ease in your low back. And feel that other upwards curve in your spine, your neck is also comfortable. So if your chin is pulled down, lift it a little. If it's pointing up to the sky, drop it down. And then let the weight of your head rest fully on the ground. Letting go of your body, letting your hands and your feet relax. A lot of focus in this practice in the hips, so allowing the muscles in and around the hips to soften so you feel the skeleton of your pelvis and your legs and your spine dropping closer to the ground. And letting go of your breath, if you're holding your breath, or if you're actively breathing, allow it to happen now. And let it soften and drop down into the belly. As you release the breath and you release your body, notice any clenching in the mind, any attachment. Allowing yourself to flow down and down into widening rings of being, as Rumi says. Beginning to feel how much fluid the body is by allowing any tightened areas to release. So it feels as though the muscles drape over the bones instead of wrapping tight around joints and bones. Letting your eyes rest, letting them be still and drop backwards into their sockets. Letting your tongue and your teeth soften. And letting your mind rest in the rhythm of the breath as it happens. Watching your breath in your belly. The soft pulse of expansion with the inhale and release with the exhale. As you rest another moment here in stillness, I'll read to you from Rumi's poem, Deliberation. Creation usually unfolds like calm breakers. Constant, slow movement teaches us to keep working like a small creek that stays clear, that does not stagnate, but finds a way through numerous details, deliberately. Deliberation is born of joy, like a bird from an egg. Birds do not resemble eggs. Think how different the hatching out is. A white, leathery snake egg, a sparrow's egg, a quince seed, an apple seed. Very different things look similar at one stage. These leaves, our bodily personalities, seem identical, but the globe of soul fruit we make, each is elaborately unique. Deepen your breathing now into this unique vessel that is your body. And as your breath flows deeper down into your torso, imagine it extending into your arms and legs and begin to move them. And see if you can get a sense of rocking through your heels that radiates up through your body, gives a little bit of pulsation all the way up. And then find a good long stretch from your fingers to your toes. As you exhale next, roll over to your right side and use your arm strength more than your neck or your head to bring yourself up. As you come upright, set yourself into Siddhasana again, bringing one ankle in front of the other. Feel free to sit up on something, your rolled mat or your block or your blanket, so that your knees release level or lower than your front hips. Draw the flesh of your butt out so that you're more on your sits bones than your tailbone. And as you lift and lengthen through the back of your skull, bring your hands out for our prosperity meditation. And we're now going to do this a little bit quicker pace than we did last time. Taking your gaze down towards the tip of your nose, tapping little finger side of your hand and turning your hands over and tapping the first finger side. With each tap, connect the mantra heart, H-A-R, rolling the R, so it sounds like a D. As you continue with this prosperity meditation, consider that another word for flow is currency. So we align abundance, prosperity with Svadisthana, the second chakra, allowing resources to both come, be received, and also to go, be given. Notice how your hands make these gestures of opening and closing. The tapping action stimulates the areas of Mercury, Moon, and Jupiter on the hands. Yogi Bhajan says this meditation stimulates the mind, the moon center, and Jupiter. When Jupiter and the moon come together, there is no way in the world you will not create wealth. Which is also why our values are aligned with Svadisthana, as we draw towards us what we desire and what we enjoy, what gives us sweetness in our lives. We also develop discrimination about what does not serve our highest selves. If the pace that I'm moving is too quick, slow it down and find your pace so you can articulate that sound, heart, and align the hands. Feeling the tapping action, the thumbs tucked in. Your gaze is down towards the tip of your nose, eyes almost closed so you can see your nose and your hands below. See if you can feel that this heart sound is coming from your navel center. As you come to an end of that practice, turn your palms to rest up on your knees. Let your eyes close and your breath be easy. Sit tall and still for a moment, being conscious of what you are allowing to magnetically flow towards you. This next time that you inhale, stretch your arms out and up. Bring your palms together, draw down along your midline as you exhale, having gathered in what you'd like to take with you. Acknowledge yourself in your practice with Namaste and anyone else you're practicing with. Namaste.